Hello, everyone. Welcome to night 3. I am happy to have you all here. I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds for more people to join. Welcome, welcome. Okay. Okay, so let's begin on night 3. So before we start, I just want to do a little recap of the last video regarding Tamar, Amnon, and Absalom, King David's children. We left off with Absalom destroying his brother Amnon for what he did to his sister. He forced himself on her, and it was just something very devastating. But he wanted to get revenge, and by revenge, he, destroyed Amnon. But it left King David sad and angry with what happened with his sons. So with that, Absalom fled. I think it was to Gesher. He went to Gesher. But yeah, let's begin. So let's see. We were in chapter 13. Now we're going to be in chapter 14 in the same book, 2nd of Samuel, chapter 14 today. So let's start off. So today we'll focus on that book. We will continue with what happened with Absalom and King David. So with this one, let's see. So with how things were left off, King David had a commander named Joab. Joab was also his nephew, so they were family and someone he can really trust for his army. And Joab, he also saw how David was left devastated and concerned with Absalom, his son who fled. He was left sad with what happened. And Joab was like, you know what? Like, it's been a while now since Absalom has left, and it's been a while now that David's still in the same, he still feels sad. He still feels angry with what happened with his family. So Joab thought of an idea, and this is how it goes. So in chapter 14, verse 1, it says, so Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was concerned about Absalom. Verse 2, and Joab sent to Tekoa. Tekoa is a town near Jerusalem. He sent and brought from there a wise woman and said to her, please pretend to be a mourner and put on mourning apparel. So he told her, like, pretend you are heartbroken, devastated from a family member that died. Put on your mourning clothes, which today would be all black. What people wear in the funeral, they all wear black because somebody died. So she put on her outfit, and he told her, say this and this and this. So he made up this story so the story can make David come out of what he was feeling. So the lady, it doesn't say her name, right? But the lady, she agreed, and she went to King David. And in verse 4, it says that she went to King David. She was so devastated, she put her face to the ground, crying. And in verse 5, it says, then the king said to her, what troubles you? And so from that verse, it says, and she answered, indeed, I am a widow. My husband is dead. Verse 6, now your maidservant had 2 sons, and the 2 fought with each other in the field, and there was no one to part them. So her 2 sons were out in the field, They fought, they were fighting, they were arguing, and nobody was around there to stop them or to help them figure out, a solution for their problem. It was just them two. Remember, this is just a story, so let's continue. And but there was one who struck the other and killed him. And now the whole family has risen up against your maidservant. So her own family came against her because of what her children did. And they said, "Deliver him who struck his brother, that we may execute him for the life of his brother whom he killed. And we will destroy the heir also. So they would extinguish my number that is left, and leave to my husband neither name nor remembrance on the earth." So overall, what happened was she made up this story that she had two sons, they were fighting, and it escalated so quickly that one of them ended up destroying the other brother, and the one that lived, he fled. And since that happened, the family was angry with what happened. They, and mind you, the family is acting out of emotion. So they, first of all, none of them knew exactly what happened. They didn't even ask like what happened, what's going on, why did this happen. They didn't ask. They just went based on how they felt, and they just wanted to do to him the same thing that he did to his brother. But she was sad because that's her son, right? No way in any shape or form is any of those type of actions okay. But in this case, since it was a made up story, she was sad because the family was coming against her, and the family wanted to do justice by eliminating anyone that had brought anything bad to the family, so they can continue on without that type of sin in their family, or corruption. So the family wanted to destroy the other son. And let's see. Um, but see, like I said, the family acted based on emotion. Emotion, for this word, emotion, this action will be repeated. So hopefully that helps with connecting the dots for the end. So one thing for sure with emotions, I have done and made many decisions based on emotion. How I felt, whether I was sad, angry, excited, everything was based on emotion. But as I was writing this down, as the Lord was guiding me into what to say, what to write down, He reminded me of an example, which is pretty funny to think about it, really. But this was back when I was 15 or 16. I was in 10th grade, and my sister was in 12th grade. And during that time, we didn't know anything about God, like just like the basics, but we didn't really believe. So my family and the household, God was just not there. Although He was always there, we just didn't know it, right? But that's another story for another day. But with what happened that day, I remember I just woke up maybe like in the wrong side of the bed. Like I was just in a bad mood, teenage years, all that mess, right? and and I remember I just woke up in the wrong side of the bed, and my sister and I were waiting downstairs for my mom to take us to school. And she was, I don't know, she just took longer than usual that day. And I was kind of not yelling, but I was like, "Mom, hurry up, we gotta go." And I was very childish at the time. And I picked up a little rock and I threw it at the window. Like I say, I don't know what happened that day that I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but obviously that was wrong. And my sister was like, "Hey, don't do that." And mind you, this was like in our teenage years. Like today, we're best friends, awesome, love it, right? But at that time, we just couldn't stand each other. If anybody has older siblings or younger siblings, you know what I'm talking about. Of your sister or brother being annoying for no reason, until you get older and it's like, oh wow, this is actually awesome, right? But at that time, I couldn't really um, like it was just like easy to be annoyed with my sister, right? So um, one thing after another, like I just got so irritated with my sister that things got physical. Okay, things got physical, and my mom, she heard the commotion, and we live in the second floor, so if she just opened like the curtain, you can see outside. And she opened the curtain and she was just like, guys, stop it, stop fighting, what are you doing? And obviously we stopped, and then she immediately came downstairs. And the thing was that um I think during that time, my sister was like always continuously bothering me, or not bullying me, but she wasn't per se the nicest at that time. Which of course, I love her, you know, but at that time. So I think after all the time that she would just be like rude or whatever, like it just increased in me. So I think at that time I just let it all out. But then my mom, she saw the whole thing, and she got me. She punished me. Like I remember getting yelled at, and then I stayed home. Like I missed like half of the school day because she punished me. She took my sister to school and I stayed home. But the whole point is that even though my mom was not there, she didn't hear what happened. She just punished me because what she saw. And it's all just with my decision, right? I decided to, behave a certain way based on my emotion. My mom did something based on emotion. So a lot of the emotions, like we just react, which is normal, right? We learn, we're growing, and we're understanding that making decisions based off emotions may not be the best, because then, it just gets. So the same thing happened here with the family. They didn't know what happened with the brother. They just wanted the other guy, to be punished and be dealt with the same way that he did to his brother. So after that, King David heard the woman. And in verse 8, the king says to the woman, go to your house and I will give orders concerning you. So, he has sympathy for what happened. And the fact that David was not there, right? Like he's not part of the family. He doesn't even know what happened. But one of the things, the priority of being a king is bringing peace and always making decisions based on wisdom, right? And resolving the problem the best way that he can. So, therefore, David was able to really think things through. Like he, like I assume, right? Like in order for him to tell the lady, okay, everything's fine, just go. I'm gonna make sure that you're fine. Just go back home. So I assume that he probably was like, okay, well, we don't know what they were fighting about. We don't know if the brother who essentially destroyed the other brother, maybe he was defending himself, or maybe out of rage in that moment, he just made a decision that ended the other brother's life. And because that happened, he probably just left because maybe he felt ashamed, or he was just saddened, or he couldn't believe what just happened, and he just left, right? We don't know. King David didn't know how the argument even happened. And he wasn't going to allow a family to just let him be destroyed because nobody knows what happened, right? Nobody knows. No, the woman said that nobody was there to intervene, to stop them from fighting. Like nobody was there. So King David had sympathy for the lady, and based on what she shared, he made the decision to say, "Hey, just go home. Everything's fine." Um, but it continues on in verse 9, 10, 11. The woman is like, "Okay, but what if they try to harm my son? What if they try to, destroy him?" And King David assured her, saying, "Don't worry. Anybody who hurts him, they're gonna come over here and I'm gonna deal with them." So King David was really quick to be like, no, everything's fine. I understand things happen. You and your son are fine. Nobody's going to hurt you or him. So after King David like really heard her and gave her the solution, then that's when she came clean. She told King David in verse 13, in verse 13 to 16, she just she just tells him, um, to tell the truth, this is not what happened, right? But she did say that, let's see, that the story was really about him. It was about him with his sons, right? The two brothers fought. Absalom and Amnon fought, right? By um, Absalom, right? Absalom destroying his brother, and Absalom fled. So it's the same thing with the story. The lady just wanted him to really see that he can solve a problem, not just within her family, but with his family. But mind you, Absalom is still he's still gone. He still fled to another town because King David has not called him back, or King David has not fully forgiven him for what he did. And the woman was like, you're so quick to answer and to resolve my problem, but you haven't done the same thing with your son. Absalom is still gone. You haven't brought him back. um, and based off the decision that you made, that you have wisdom. You didn't make a decision based on your emotions. You made it based on the facts and what was given to you, and you made the right choice. So after King David found out that it was like, oh, this is not a real story, this is about me, he's like, okay, did Joab, did he, make you say all of this? And the woman's like, yes, he did, only, to help you, to help you solve the problem with your son. And essentially, King David calls for Joab. It's in verse 20. In verse 20, King David calls for Joab, and then King David understood what he was trying to do to help him solve, his problem with his son Absalom. So Joab, thanks David, because David's like, okay, bring him here. And then Joab thanks him, and then he brings in verse 23. It says, so Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. Now, although Joab did bring Absalom, David was like, you know what, you can bring him here, but I don't want to see him. So, as we can tell, David was still hurt by what happened, didn't fully forgive him because he's like, okay, you can bring him, but I don't want to see him. Like, how many times have we done that? how many times, like, okay, I'll forgive you, but not all the way. Like, I'm still going to be a little upset with you, right? Because our emotions just take over. It's how we feel at the moment. So, it's understandable, but it's never good to stay in that emotion for a long time because it just makes it longer to heal, longer for the joy to just happen. Like, it's not worth it's not worth holding on to grudges. It just makes things more bitter. There's moments where, like, family members come and go, and when people do go, it's like that's when it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this and this. It's like it's better to just be at peace with family or those who have hurt, you or anyone. It's just better to just say, you know what, I forgive you, let's move on. But I know at times it can be hard because people can hurt us, people can say rude things or anything that we may feel. And, but the good thing is that Absalom, for 2 years, imagine for 2 years, King David did not even see him, did not call him, did nothing. So Absalom was like, why am I even here? So Absalom, being hurt and irritated, he called for Joab. In verse 32, Absalom asked Joab. He said, "Why have I come here from Geshur? It would it would be better for me to be there still." He said, "Now therefore, let me see the king's face. But if there is iniquity in me, let him execute me." So Absalom was like, "You know what? Why did I even come here? I'm not even wanted here. My father doesn't even want to see me. Like, I should have just stayed in Geshur where I would have been at peace. I would have just lived my life. But I'm over here, back back with my father, who doesn't want to see me, who I feel like a burden. It's like, why am I even here?" And he told Joab, like, if my father is still upset with me, and if he has seen that I've done bad, let him just take me away, because why am I even here? So Joab was like, okay, let me go talk to the king. So Joab brought the news to King David, and King David finally was like, all right, bring him. So then when King David saw Absalom, his son, he forgave him, and they moved on. So they resolved they resolved the family matter, the family problem. But in conclusion, right? So after we learn and acknowledge our mistakes, it's good to ask the Lord for discernment or an increase of discernment concerning the good and bad decisions. Like, per se, um, okay, so here's a little story. I won't say much about it yet, but I have made decisions based on emotion so many times, so many times. And I'm sure many of you can agree with me that most of the time we make decisions based on how we feel. Whether we feel excited for the moment, like, oh, this is great. Yeah, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. But then later it's like, what did I just do? Why did I do that? Or when we're angry, like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna say this, and then at the end we end up regretting what we said to the person, right? So it's like emotions have a lot of impact on what we decide to do. I'm not saying, like, our emotions, how we feel is valid. It's always valid, right? We have emotions, but it's what we do with the emotions that also count. It's also important. Like I said, I've made many decisions based on my yeah, I agree. It's there's many moments where I can say I regret many things, but then God really just helps me forgive myself, to be graceful with myself, because if he forgives me, if he forgives all of us, we have to also forgive ourselves, even if it hurts us. Or like, oh, trust me, I've done many things where I'm just like, why did I do that? Why? So, but in the beautiful thing of it all is that we can reflect. We can say, okay, you know what? I've done this and this and this based on how I feel. I don't want to do that again. I don't want my emotions to control me. I don't want my emotions to overpower me, because then after we're left in a worse position than we were in the beginning. And because not only when we seek God, when we say, God, I feel this way, or God, there's an opportunity. This opportunity seems great. What should I take it? What should I do? Or, like, per se, with relationships, like, oh, this person seems great, checks off many boxes, but I'm not sure. What should I do? Or decisions based off work or school, whatever it may be. It's like there's moments where we're gonna feel excited. Oh my gosh, this job is gonna pay great. This and this and this, but ultimately, is it going to be worth it? There are many people who, yes, we need money to survive, right? Especially in this economy, we need the money to survive. But there's many where they work and work and work and work because of the money, and they've lost their freedom. They're tired, they don't have much social life anymore. So it's like, yes, some opportunities may seem great, but at the end, it may not be great for us. It could harm us. It may take away something that we once had, which is freedom, the time, spending time with family, having spent time with friends, or per se, like, for example, I had this opportunity with with investment, and I won't say much about it because it's something that I am working on to put together. But I had this opportunity with an investment. I took it because this happened over 2 years ago, right? So I took the opportunity because I'm like, wow, I can make this certain amount of money. Not only would this help me, I can help my family. Like, my intentions towards it were good, right? And but out of the excitement, out of the decision that I made based off of that, it ended up so bad. So bad. Not only was money stolen, but it put me in a position of so much regret because and it made me think like, wow, like I really made this decision based off because I thought I was gonna per se achieve this amount of money or be able to help my family, but it ended up just being bad, bad decision. So I mean, of course, with that now, I can look back and be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be ignorant with opportunities that come my way because I know that not everything comes from God. Some things, comes from the enemy, and that's just the truth. But the thing is, being constantly connected with God, letting Him guide us, learning, His voice, His word, what He says, what He wants for us, and most of the time, it's the process that matters the most. And I have countless times have been wanting to rush things because I just want this, I just want that, I'm excited, I want this. But in reality, God just wants us to go step by step because in those steps, it's like we get to learn so much. And not only do we increase in understanding and knowledge, but also in growth and maturity and strength and skills, and through that, it requires less emotion and more obedience, or more letting ourselves be guided by Him, and less emotion. I think, with emotions, um, we got to be careful sometimes, especially if it's, decisions that can affect us later, and then the outcome can be worse. And I wouldn't want that for anyone. Like, as a mom, I tell my son, like, you got to be careful with, the choices that you make because there's going to be always consequences. Whether you think you can get away with it, there's going to be always consequences based on what we choose. And I always, he's at an age where, he's growing. He's 10 years old and he's learning and growing. And as he's growing and learning, I'm teaching him along the way. And I tell him something very important is don't let your emotions control you. Yes, you're allowed to feel upset, you're allowed to feel sad, you're allowed to feel that way, but don't let your emotions be the one to choose for you because then it only lasts a little bit, but the consequences are longer. It lasts longer. So with that, I just encourage anyone who has had made those decisions before based on emotions to just grab a piece of paper, a pen, and just really just analyze. Okay, what decisions have I made of these emotions? What were the outcome? What can I do next time to avoid that? Or per se, like in the moments where one doesn't feel good, doesn't want to talk, to the significant other or anyone, to take the time to step back, say, okay, you know what? Right now, I don't feel my very best to talk about this matter. Give me some time and let me come back to you when I feel better, when I'm able to process things better, not, let my anger just speak for me. So I think with that being said, it's just being careful with our emotions. Our emotions are valid, but what the actions that we do with it are, I think, a bit more important because then that's when the effect can either be good or make things worse. Okay. So I'm so glad that you guys are here. Thank you for joining me. And I hope to see you guys next week or the next video for night 4. Uh, Um, like as I was putting on this like pajama, I'm like, you know what? This is my series one outfit. Okay, this is really comfortable, and I was really excited when I was starting to make this. So I'm like, this is my outfit for series one. For series two, there'll be another pajama. Okay. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm so happy to have you here. And oh yeah, okay. And I hope to see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.